Hello and welcome to the first of what we hope will be a common thing on this channel. It is a train sim news podcast thing. We haven't come up with a name for it yet. So there's quite a bit of news to gloss over. And we're going to go straight into it. We're going to talk about, first of all, the PlayStation 4 launch of Rush Hour and what a calamity it was.
Well, yeah, it was there. Bertie, as a PlayStation 4 user, will be able to tell you firsthand.
Yes, I will be able to tell you firsthand that it was a calamity, as I just said. So for those who don't know, basically the release of the 4.26 update of Train Sim World, and when I say 4.26, I mean Unreal Engine 4.26, not 4.26 version of the game. It effectively wiped out our entire DLC libraries, and I think it's because of a glitch or a design flaw in the PlayStation Store. So Train Simulator, Dovetail Games have broken Steam. Now they've broken the PlayStation Store. Next up, they're going to have to break Origin through Rail Simulator. They're going to have to break Epic Games and the Microsoft Store, although I think they already have done that.
Oh, that's funny, that. So, yeah, and it was an absolute catastrophe because all their DLC was, you couldn't download it or play it, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it would show up as installed in your DLC library, but it wouldn't show as owned on the PlayStation Store page. In fact, they still don't show up as owned. And if you did install them, they wouldn't show up in-game. There were only 3 or 4 DLCs that did work, and these were actually the ones that had the preservation updates recently added to them. So Peninsula Corridor worked fine, East Coast Way worked fine, Hubstrecker Rhein Roar worked completely fine.
Hubstrecker Rhein Roar, that is.
Okay, I'm not German like you.
I'm not German.
And it was just hopeless. And the base routes worked, and the new Boston routes worked, which we'll be talking about later on. So overall, not very good for long-term players because for a period they have or had lost hundreds of pounds worth of content.
DTG have also been releasing patches lately to see to try and sort it, but according to some people, it still doesn't work 100%. And DLCs, there are a couple of DLCs which they have stated that will still not work, and you still can install in PlayStation. And
those are the BR182 Taurus, and one other thing which we probably should have checked before we started recording this. It might have been Rapid Transit. I'm not sure. Don't count on me. No, I don't really care either. Yeah.
Okay.
But either way.
Yeah. Disastrous. This only applies to PC, not PC, to PS4. We're not talking PC, at least for me, because I play on PC. It was fine. Another quick thing to mention regarding mini catastrophes with the Unreal 4.26 update was the loss of every single mod for PC. They have all now got to be converted to support the new 4.26 because of the different packing of the .pack files that Train Sim World uses to open the content. So that's quite a mess, but all the wonderful people over at TS Community are getting those sorted, and little by little they're all coming up and getting the routes up to scratch again. So should we get on to our next subject?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that the mod issue is an issue, but I don't. It's a problem that is being fixed and will be fixed sooner rather than later, because the mods for Train Simulator, Train Sim World, they're done quite well most of the time, and hopefully the Train Sim community, the website, will be able to fix everything quickly and effectively.
Yeah, well, they've already published most of their sound mods. They've got the 395 sound mod up. There's only a couple of bits and bobs by unknown authors, like for example the Class 465 interior patch and the Class 465 camera view that haven't been patched over yet, but I'm sure they're in development.
That 465 patch, the interior patch, I don't see why Dovetail made the mistake in the first place.
Yeah, and why the camera is so hide inside its cab. That's still a bit of a mystery for me.
The interior, for those who don't know, for the interior, the seats in standard class are for some reason the wrong colour. They're the purple maquette used in first class instead of the blue maquette. And I've got no idea how they managed to do that, to make that issue. It just seems crazy that they figured out a way to create an issue that they've never made before. I don't know. I don't know what went on in their heads when they thought, yeah, we chose to put the wrong maquette in it. It's not hard.
Yep. Right, should we move on to our next subject?
Yes,
right.
That is something we should do.
Yeah, we're going to now do a mini review of Boston Peninsula for Train Sim World. Boston Peninsula, sorry, Boston Sprinter.
Yes. They should have called it Boston's Providence like normal people would.
Yeah, right, Boston. So, starting again, we're doing a mini review now on Boston Providence. So, Bertie hasn't played it yet because he hasn't had the chance to. Because mainly there is one big issue, which he doesn't own it. But other than that...
Yes, that is the main issue.
He's seen videos and he's got opinions, I think, don't you?
Yes, I do have opinions.
Okay, right. So as a first-time player, because I own the DLC, I can tell you that it's a great improvement over the original New York Corridor Sprinter thing that was released back with the first 3 routes in the original Train Sim World before 2020. So that it's a great upgrade, and the train.
That said, I think everything was an upgrade over NEC New York.
Good point, because it was a terrible route, but still, the sounds on the trains. We don't know if they're 100% realistic because we're not American, but what we do know is that they sound great. So, for example, the F40PH, it comes with a absolutely lovely interior sound set. So instead of just being dimmed outside sounds, you can actually hear a little rumble inside the cab from all the little parts vibrating. The only thing I have seen that's not very good in the route are just a couple of bits and bobs, which are the usual TS world problem, which are usually license related, so weathering. The trains aren't half as weathered as they should be, but that's an issue that can be fixed by modding. And usually it's to do with the license, because the license providers won't allow their trains to be depicted in a filthy state. And then the other issue is the lack of a speed set in the ACS 64 locomotive. But then it's a route with such variation of speed limits that you wouldn't ever really use it. But other than that, it's a pretty spot on route.
Yes, there are some problems though. There have been reports. Again, I don't know it for myself because I haven't played the route. But sometimes the timetable caused trains to back up, effectively a traffic jam trains. Have you experienced that?
Yes, mainly when you're late. If you keep it, you have to be pretty much on point. But usually the trains will keep to. You do sometimes see an awful lot of trains. For example, if you pull out of Providence, you will see train after train after train of the MBTA, purple ones lining up to come in, which is quite worrying. Yeah. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, they have said that the Catino, so the overhead wiring, is the wrong type, but they are remodelling it for it to be the correct type, and it will be added in a later patch, I think.
Yes, and luckily, the person who's doing it is Brandon, so not Dovetail Games, which means it might actually be done.
Yep. So just to finish off this mini Boston to Providence Review, and we're going to leave you with a couple of cinematic views of the ACS 64 and the F40PH locomotives.
Yes, and you can see these on screen right now, probably. I don't know, I'm not editing this.
Yeah, so as you can see, they are wonderfully made. They're wonderful. The route is really well optimized. You can get it up easily over 100 FPS, at least on my PC. Beautiful.
One thing that's worth noting is that in the timetable for the route, there are the Acela, how it's pronounced. Yes, that. The services for that are in the timetable, but they're not used because, of course, there's no A star. And they said that it's because people complained when the Class 465 services were added into London to Faversham before the 465 was released because people complained that Higham had no services. And people on the forums, at least, seem to be about a 50-50 split between saying, I'd like to wait for the Acela, whatever, to play these services, and the others who say, I would have preferred a ACS 64 top and tail running the service. But my view on it is that if they did that, the services will be compromised because the train can only do 125 miles per hour, the ACS 64. And if they did make an Acela, they couldn't get rid of the ACS 64 on it because people would complain.
Yeah. Also, just while we're on the subject of TSW2 4.26 Simrail update, the graphics. So there are some great improvements. So as you are probably aware, the motion blur is something that there's plagued Train Sim World since its launch, with very messy edge surfaces when in motion and the wheels. And I'm pleased to say that even though it's not fixed, it's now the motion blur messiness is now only next to the wheels, and it's very small. You can barely tell. It's mainly all when you're in the cab or in the passenger view, and all the edges of the windows kind of blurred out. That's been fixed. It's for example, on a very fast train like the TGV Series 200 on Marseille to Avignon. That's really good because as you go really fast, the edges don't blur out. It's really nicely done. Also, surface reflections. So if you're driving a very shiny train like the ACS 64, and you're driving through quite a lit atmosphere, for example, if you're driving into Boston Station, you can usually see the reflections of all the other trains on the different roads come up on the side, and that's actually really immersive.
Yeah, with the weathering that you mentioned earlier, I prefer having the cleaner trains because I love how the reflections look in this game. It's why I loved Great Western Express, because the trains were so clean, they'd look beautiful in sunny weather.
Yeah.
So a controversial opinion, but one that I hold anyway.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'd just like to deviate from our itinerary, because usually we were going to talk about the Class 465 in a second, but I'm going to butt in, and I'm going to start talking about the BR204 DLC, the one that you didn't want to buy.
Yeah, just to make this clear, this is the Rivet Games one for Train Sim World. It was launched it was launched spring 2020, and it has been broken since launch.
Yes. Now, what I just remembered, I read a post on the forums, and I think the Rivet Games said, not necessarily on the forums, that they have a fix, but that Dovetail didn't release it.
I mean, personally, to me, that sounds a bit like a load of baloney. Because why would DTG downrate a product?
I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with the scenarios and the tutorials.
Yeah.
So, Dovetail, if you're watching this, please...
Which you're probably not.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, but if you are, which you're not, please release the patch, because it's a beautifully modelled train. It's the only train that runs, well, in the game at least, that runs on the unelectrified sections of Main Spessarbahn. And
down to Schaffenburg docks and Law Industrial Estate. Yeah.
And if they actually released the patch, we'd consider buying it, because at the moment it's completely broken. I mean, it's broken.
I mean,
for those who don't know, the throttle in certain notches just doesn't work. I'd buy it. I think you'd buy it as well, because you like the shunters.
Yeah, it's essentially the way the 204 works is it's got a hydraulic transmission, and it's controlled via a steering wheel, much like on the BR155, except when you reach certain notches, the engine seems to rev up, but the transmission doesn't actually seem to provide any torque.
Yes, and this was a glitch since launch. And Trainsim Germany, when they were helping out with the development of the Loco, they warned Rivet Games about doing it, about the glitch. But because they'd have to redo the entire Cinegraph setup, they didn't bother, and they released the broken product.
Which is just well, actually, Rivet Games made some stunning train simulator content, but for some reason, everything they've done in Train Sim World's never been up to scratch, because Arosa is plagued with the odd bug, and the scenery doesn't look great. The Isle of Wight, let's say, is a little bit messy. The water's a little bit wonky. The train's got a couple of bugs in it. But the route looks good. The 204 is broken, as we've just said. So yeah, Rivet Games, you need to really step up your game, and the thing is, if they released a broken DLC upon launch, but then they actually rectified and released a patch to solve it. But I mean, for example, on the RE442, or the little G, not RE, for the little Loco for Arosa, if you turn on the dead man's device, you put it into neutral and you get your foot off the pedal, the whole thing goes berserk, and it won't let you release the brakes until you reset the system, and that can't be realistic. So it's
Well, I mean, it might be realistic, and you look like a total numpty, but we'll gloss over that because we don't know any better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there are lots of people in the community who are really annoyed with Rivet Games because they make these really awful, stupid issues with their products, and then they don't rectify them. And I mean, there's one person on the Dovetail forums who's literally got the signature proud owner of 0 Rivet Games products, and that sums it up really. Because if they keep on making this shit, I apologise for swearing, even though it's a quite a minor swear word. If they continue to do what they do, they're going to end up, people aren't going to trust them, and nobody's going to buy their products.
Indeed. And which, just to mention it while we're at it, there's also been some great developments in the way that Train Sim World works, because we've got some great news for all the British fans out there, which is Ultron Powerhouse are now basically, well, we could say that they're providing all the sounds, basically, because they provided the 465, they provided the 314 PEP for Cathcart, and they've said they're going to provide the sounds for the 377 and 387 for London commuter, Brighton to London. So
and they did the 31.
Indeed, they did the 31. I'm convinced they've had some input in the 20, because that sounds glorious. So let's just hope that this carries on like it is, and that we get more AP sounds, because it could lead to a really good relationship. Because, for example, the 465 is exquisite, except for those bugs we mentioned with the maquette and the driver camera being too high. It's an absolutely beautiful model. It's got lovely physics. It's got lovely everything. And then while we're on it, Skyhook Games, they do really good models as well. Really good routes. Cane Creek looks amazing. I would never buy it because it's not my style, but it looks amazing.
The Skyhook Games, they really do excel in modelling. They, on their website, they've got a Class 08 in EWS livery, and this became the 08 that was included in the BI Heavy Freight Pack. But the EWS livery, even though we can't see it in game, is absolutely beautifully textured. I mean, it's properly good. It's a good texture.
Yeah. And also, they've had input with the Class 101, the BR Class 101, not the German one. So the DMMU. And what else did they do? They did some more stuff. Oh yeah, the 363, the German little shunter, which works and is absolutely. It's the thing about SHG, so Skyhook, is they've got no bugs. When they release things, there's no bugs. It's not.
Well. Hang on a minute. Cane Creek is a buggy mess.
Is it?
Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry about that. Well, at least the 363 is bug free. Well, at least I haven't played the scenarios, but it's lovely.
They also did the Class 33, which is weird because I believe it's the only Dovetail add-on that wasn't made by Dovetail in any way. Because they did the model and the texturing.
So Skyhook did them. Yeah, Skyhook did, not the Dovetail.
Yeah, and Mesh Tools, they did the Simulgraph setup.
And sounds.
So, yeah. So it's not a Dovetail add-on. It's a Mesh Tools Skyhook Games add-on. And they also did the American locos for Sandpatch Raid, CSX Heavy Haul, whatever you want to call it. And to be honest, they've got pretty awful sounds, but they look really good.
They look awesome. And that is where, unfortunately for a console that isn't available for PC, in the description of this video you've got a link to all the TS community mods, because there's some lovely Sandpatch Grade locomotive mods, which makes them sound maybe not perfect, but a lot better than they do. And people are working on some more stuff.
There's one thing I wonder about the Cane Creek routes, because I haven't played it, I haven't watched any videos of it. The SD40 in the trailers and pre-release screenshots, the Union Pacific text was too high up and it looked crap. But in the Peninsula Corridor SD40, they didn't have
Peninsula Corridor's GP38. It's not.
What did I say?
SD40.
Yes, ignore that. But they didn't have the issue, so I'm not sure how they managed to mess it up.
Yep. I think we should actually finish off all the TSW stuff and then move on to TS, because there's no point doing it jumpy bits.
Okay then.
We're going to quickly give so there has been, since the roadmap was released more than a year ago, last August 2020, there has been a member in development, which is in production, which has been the Class 313 for East Coast Way, and that is still there, and it hasn't shifted a muscle. And it did previously go into upcoming, but then it's rolled back in production.
Yes, for those who don't know, the Class 313 is very similar to the Class 314, and it is a local DLC that's been on the roadmap since the very first roadmap. It's basically as old as Train Sim World 2 itself, but they did say that although it wasn't on the roadmap in the right order, it was in production in inverted commas, after Cathcart Circle was made into production.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the changes between the Class 314 and the 313 are so minor that, I mean, the only difference is the cab and the interior and the camshaft system and the passenger information system. I don't think there's many other main changes. I don't know how it's taken the extra, what is it now, 6 months? I'm at the point.
Yeah, Bertie's been a very big supporter of it's going to get cancelled.
Yeah, I think it's been so long on the roadmap that they're going to silently cancel it, and they're not going to bother, because it's just too similar to the Class 314 to be truly worth their time, and it will be for the East Coastway route, which won't be as popular as the London to Brighton route. And even though it will probably appear as AI on London to Brighton, at Brighton Station...
Speculation.
It just won't... What do you say?
It's speculation. We don't know for sure it's going to come up.
I reckon it will. But I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. I think they're going to cancel it. Now, you disagree with me.
I don't think they're going to cancel it because it's been... the other day when they did the Q&A, Sam said it was very much in development. So they're for the minute, they're not, they haven't given any hints of it being cancelled, but we never know. So moving on, because we don't want to spend half an hour in 313.
Well, no, I do. I'd just like to say but I really want the DLC to come out because I really like the Southern 313s. It's a properly, well, it's a train, and I like it. I travel them I travel on them a lot. They're nice trains to travel on ish. Other than the obvious problems of being about 90 years old and catching fire all the time. More so than a Class 180. But yeah, I think please Dovetail, make the train. I will be very happy if you do. Because the Class 314 was brilliant.
Indeed. Partnered with AP for the sound, you're done. Right. Now, we're going to shortly move on to Train Simulator news, but before we do, we're going to quickly mention, well, we're going to speculate a little bit about Dresden to Riesa. So,
yes.
For those of you that don't know, that is the newest route on the Rush Hour Spectre that's coming up next. It runs from Dresden to Riesa, or Riesa, or however you say it, and it includes. There is no new stock on it, so it includes the Talent 2 in. I'm not sure if it's a 3 or 4 car configuration. I think it's 3 though. We also get the BR146.2, the Doppelstock Mark 4s, the and then 185.5 in MRCE, and also a BR143. So it's a lot of DLC that has previously been released, but hopefully it will be remastered for it to be better quality.
Yes,
I'm already seeing the 146 is already being given a new system of destinations, because in real life, the way they were implemented in Mindspace at Ban were, I don't know, say it was RE9 to Siegen, it would be RE9 space Siegen, but the way it's done in real life is the way they've done it, at least in the screenshots, which I'll put on the screen, for Dresden, which is in a corner, the name of the service, so in this case, I don't know, RE9, and then in the middle, destination. So yeah, I do hope it's remastered stock.
For 143 especially, because that is very old, very dated, and not that good by modern standards.
In the screenshots, you can tell it's got a destination display. Talent 2, though, by the cab pictures, looks like a copy and paste Snell Fast Tracker Cohen one. Unfortunately, no LZB in it, which is a shame. I do hope that it's all got LZB now that we've got LZB up and running in TSW. A good thing, though, is that the Doppelstock is no longer copy and paste Doppelstock, but it is a Doppelstock in the correct livery and with the correct interiors for the S-Bahn Dresden, which has got a different livery. It's got a white stripe along the side, so that should add for some nice variety. You also get one last thing. You also get extra services if you own the BR101 DLC. Then you will get some intercity services, and if you own the ICE3, because of course you will, because you own base TSW2, then the IC3M, you'll get extra intercity services. So you were going to say?
Yes. The passenger information system, apparently, it's basically what we wanted, at least what I wanted, where it would set automatically, but you could change it. So they've finally done it. You can finally change the automatic passenger information system.
Yeah, you can do it in the actual updated Mindspace at Band 146.
Oh, okay. Well, ignore what I just said.
Problem. Whilst we're mentioning German stock, they have updated all the German stock. So the 146, 185, 182, all of them to have LZB. Problem. The 146, you can now turn on the LZB switch, but the only LZB representation you get is on the HUD. When you come to an LZB end zone, PZB dies, and it goes into a weird mode where it doesn't let you drive the train. So that's going to need fixing if you want to use LZB on the 146. That's only though when it turns off. It works fine when it's on. Yeah. That's all I had to say. Anything you have to say?
Yeah. Well, we can't ignore the fact of the branches. So for those who don't know, there were, I think, 1 or 2 branches to the route which were going to be included, but were then cut to save time, or because of technical issues that we are not aware of. And people weren't very happy with it. They're still not very happy with it. Luckily, I'm not too bothered by it because I'm just not that interested in the route anyway. But it is an issue. I really wish they would have delayed the route and actually added the branches, but there's nothing we can do about it.
One last mention before we move on to Train Simulator. They are adding. So the same way as they focused on winter in Boston to Providence, they are now focusing on autumn and spring. So they're focusing on autumn, mainly spring. I think it is by the screenshots because the trees aren't brown. And then it says also on the article on the Dovetail site that oh yes, we forgot to mention you also get a BR363 in a Deutsche Bundesbahn livery. We forgot to mention that one, which is just a shunter you get for road signals. So what I was saying, you also get a few core. They're not core updates, but they are upgrades that are for the route. And I will read texture. I'll just say, I'll quote: Narva Dresden takes advantage of all the new features of rush hour. Feel the rush as you travel from station to station, seeing a greater variety of passengers and higher passenger volumes at peak times. New to the route comes reflective signage and atmospheric lighting that brings the night to life. So atmospheric lighting sounds gorgeous, but I'm very interested in this reflective signage because up to the moment, when you were driving in the on High Speed 1 and you were thundering down the tunnel on a Class 395, and as you drove up to the TVM flags, you could only see them when you were very close to them. So hopefully with this, you'll be able to see those kind of things from a further distance.
Yes, yeah.
So now just finishing off on this TSW section, I have to mention one quick last thing, which is that there's a small bug with PC, which is quite a shame, because essentially when you close the game, the Unreal engine detects that it's crashed, so it gives you a bug report sending device thing, a console kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of a shame, but I guess that'll be fixed, and it's only when you close the game; it doesn't crash the game. So, should we move on to Train Simulator?
Yes, and first of all, I'd like to start off with the Armstrong Powerhouse Class 465, which has just been announced.
Volume 2, because we've already got a Volume 1.
Yes, we have finally. We're finally getting the modern version, so anything from 2008 you can do.
Yeah, and it's an enhancement pack like the last one, and it contains some new motor sounds.
Ooh. Yes, those will be the Hitachi ones, I assume.
So I'll just play them now. So if you're just hold it for a minute, I'll play them now. There you go. That's a clip from Armstrong Powerhouse's Facebook. That's just a sneak audio peek for the 465 motors, which sounds.
I couldn't hear it, so I'm just going to say, yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah. Knowing it's Armstrong Powerhouse. So yeah, and then recently, just to touch on it, they've recently also released the 377, 379, and 387 enhancement pack. But got nothing to say on that because I don't own it personally, but it just sounds really good. And luckily, we'll be getting those sounds in Train Sim Worlds 387, I think.
Unfortunately, the 387 by Armstrong Powerhouse, they're wrong, but it's not really their fault. It's just the model that they're using. So the window displays, you know what I mean, on the windows.
Passenger information systems, yeah.
Yeah. They, in real life, there's one of them, and I think it's the third window in the central bit on each side. But in the Armstrong Powerhouse one, because they're using class 377 body shell, they've got 2 of them, the first window after each door.
Yeah.
And that's wrong, and they can't fix it, which is quite annoying. It's not major, but it is annoying.
Yeah. So that's all from Armstrong Powerhouse. I haven't heard anything from Just Trains. They're still working on, in their development section, they've got the Midland Main Line Nottingham to Lincoln extension, and then also the Hope Valley extension, which hopes to go down to Manchester through the Hope Valley. And then we've also got further away, you've also got the Highland Main Line, which it's not on their website, but I haven't heard it being cancelled, so I presume the Highland Main Line is still a thing. So that's I think it's Glasgow to Inverness. Don't take my word for that one. Then further down on the Steam site, so Steam developers, we've got Caledonia Works. They are working on 2 locomotives, and they are working on the Great Eastern Railway Class P43, which is in testing, and the Great Western Railway 2884 class, which is in cab animation and scripting development phase. So we've got nothing new from them. From Steam Sound Supreme, we have just got a new set of North Eastern Railway and Great Northern Railway non-corridor carriages, pre-grouping edition by Matrix Trains, which are coming soon, and it includes 10 coaches. And then finally, we've got nothing from Victory Works. They gave a little sneak peek that they were doing some War Department 210Os, but nothing confirmed. And Bossman Games are in theory working on the rebuilt Light Pacifics, but they haven't put it in their in development page yet. So yeah, hope that's still in development. And development wise, I think that's everything from Train Simulator, because we've got nothing else from DTG. So we're now going to talk a little bit about the future of Train Simulator.
Yes, so every year since 2009, when Train Simulator first came out, there has been a yearly refresh to Train Simulator, and usually it brings new updates to the engine and gameplay, and always, most of the time, a change in the content included. So the most recent version is, of course, 2021, which includes the Fife Circle, Kiel to Lubeck, I believe.
Yeah, and Klitschfield.
Yes. And we wonder whether there's going to be a 2022, because Train Simulator is at the point where it's pretty much dead on Dovetail's end.
Yeah.
But they're barely releasing anything for the game now. Most of the releases on Steam for it are from other developers.
Yeah.
Content already existed and was already available. And I reckon that they're going to do the yearly refresh, but there's not going to be any engine upgrades like there was with the 64-bit upgrade. They've confirmed already that there won't be a update to DirectX, which does limit how long people will be able to play the game.
Well, first, you need to. What is DirectX?
DirectX is it's an API. It's I think it's effectively what games run on in respects. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's basically, it needs to be. It's how the game communicates with the hardware, and with DirectX, old versions of DirectX, like Trace Simulator is using, don't work too well with modern computers. So when we're on Windows, when we're on Windows 15, we might not even be able to start Train Simulator without heavy modifications. They've said there will not be an engine upgrade because it would break 14 years of content. Which is quite ironic, 'cause
64-bit already did a bit of that.
Yes, and DirectX 10 or 11 or 12 would break it even more. So sadly, Train Simulator is in many ways on a ticking time bomb towards being unplayable on modern devices.
Yeah, and I was going to say something, but I forgot. Well,
what do you think is going to be
oh
included?
yes, that's the thing. That the same way as with Trains in World, every year, usually it's 3 new routes, or in the case of Trains in World 2020, it was 3 old routes that were outstanding that were included with the actual route with a yearly package. In Train Sim, yeah.
With Train Simulator, I think the only time there's only been once or twice when they've included genuinely new routes.
Yeah.
They did with the airline of the 50s, but I think that's it.
So that's what I was going to say. So unlike Train Sim World, where it looks as if they're doing that, Train Simulator usually includes old routes, because 5 Circle's been out for a couple of years. So has Clinchfield, at least for a year, and the Kiel line. So the question is, yeah,
Kiel to Lubeck is a beautiful route, I might add.
Yeah. So actually, considering that TS 2022 would include as a package 3 routes, there are no outstanding routes that have been created recently.
Yeah, but hold on a minute. Sherman Hill was in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the recent Train Simulator releases, there aren't any. That's the problem. I mean, they've been all rubbish. There's been the Reigate extension by Rivet, wasn't it?
That's more of a scenario pack, though.
Whatever it is, it's absolutely atrocious. Value for money. So it was the Reigate extension. 20th of August, they released this Explorer collection, which includes Kiel to Lubeck, Marseille to Avignon, Southampton to Bournemouth, Southern End Line. Yeah, so...
Well, that Explorer package is just a special edition, like Epic Journey. But I think the routes are going to be NEC, Washington to wherever it is, which released recently. The Cross City line, not so sure about NEC, I'm certain of it, but I don't know about any German releases. They might do what they did with 2016, release really old routes, because Sherman Hill and West Rhine were properly old routes. So I don't know, maybe they'll give us back the Seaberg run. But yeah,
there's also been some dodgy stuff going on because, for example, they have let me think. Let me see. They've been doing bundles lately, essentially, with these great big piles, basically, of old DLC. So one of their recent ones was London to Brighton, and the class, I can't remember what number it is. The
421.
Yeah, exactly, and the 421. No one's going to buy that. No one, because it's out of date.
Well, they're releasing these twin packs. You don't have to buy them together, but with the Class 41, it's very old, but so is London's Brighton. And, I mean, I own it myself. I quite like it. It's nothing spectacular, even for the time it was made. But I think that it's still a playable experience, and a few people, at least, will still buy it.
Yeah. I mean, on the subject of the 4 SIG, so the 421, there is quite a thing, which is the DLC was released on the 7th of June 2012 and was made partially by IHH, so Iron Horse House, which we all know that made rubbish content. Well, let's not go into that. But yeah, London to Brighton for me has always been a good route. It's well, thing is, with the version in Train Sim World, it's going to render the Train Simulator one completely out of date, which is a shame.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
The Train Simulator version already doesn't look that good.
And then they're doing these weird packages. They're doing these weird packages. Look, for example, Class A4 Pacifics collection, Class A4 Pacifics Loco add-on, London to Brighton, and the 4214 SIG. And they're doing all these weird bundles of really outdated stuff that just made me wonder.
Well, some of them have been up there for years.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, public like announcing them though. Some of them, for example, this London to Brighton one was about a month old. It's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I wondered why it was there, but I mean, it doesn't really add anything new to the game, which is why it doesn't really matter, because it's just another way to buy things.
Yeah, and there's something that worries me because I mean, they're currently, when at the date of recording this video, there is a sale on, and if you look up Train Simulator on Steam, I'm talking on Steam. This is Steam sale. We can see that we have Train Sim World for 25 quid, so it's not on sale, but Train Simulators for 12 quid, and I personally think a lot of the Train Simulator content should get sliced down in price. Because, for example, you're paying, so Northeast Corridor for Train Simulator, so Washington DC to Baltimore, which includes 2 very outdated bits of stock, even though it's a good route, costs £18.74. Southeastern High Speed for Train Sim World, which comes with some really good stock in it, I think, wouldn't you say?
Oh, which route?
Southeastern High Speed.
Well, the Class 395 was nice-ish, but the 375 was a crime against humanity.
Okay, LGV, so the French TGV route, that was very good. And it cost exactly the same price as the version for Train Simulator, I think.
Actually, I think
it's slightly cheaper, but
at least now the LGV route, the main one, is £18.
Yeah.
Well, I think that might have been changed because of the Rhone Alps DLC being made available.
Yeah. Still, the pricing, I mean, I'm not talking about Train Sim World, we all know DTG's pricing is always a bit sketchy, expensive as hell, but anyway. I'm
just checking on the Dovetail website, sorry to go off topic, but I think with the German route it's going to be Frankfurt to Koblenz.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, so there's obviously a there's obviously a problem with DLC prices, especially regarding Train Simulator. That some of them are a bit over the top. Does seem. I mean, that's for example, I mean, I was just having a look. So £17.99 for LGV Marseille Avignon, but only because of if you pay for the Rhone Alps thing, it's £32, which is a lot of money. So yeah.
I'm just going through the history of different versions of Train Simulator on the website.
Yeah.
And you see how I mean, stylistically, it's barely changed since Train Simulator 2014.
Yeah.
But Train Simulator 2012, as far back as Railworks and therefore Rail Simulator, they were pretty much identical games.
Yeah.
Although Railworks did bring 3 new, I'll go to say routes, but they were incredibly small. I still like them, but they were small.
Yeah. And
some of them they never brought back. And even now they're doing it. They're doing it with North Wales Coastal. That hasn't come back. And people really want that route to come back. The TGV Rezo, they said they're going to bring it back. They're not going to.
For those of you that are interested on buying the TGV Rezo, that you can still buy it on a website called Aerosoft. 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 And you can still get keys. It's a bit like the Amazon deals you can still get, but it's not on Steam. I don't think... Well, it is on Steam, but it's not available to purchase.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes they remove things that they could have made money from by re-releasing them. They could make a lot of money, I reckon, by releasing some of the old Iron Horse stuff, like the crane and the Hawker Siddeley Kestrel.
Yeah.
I'd personally pay money to get the Seaburg Barn route and Castle Rock Railroad for the old versions of Train Simulator, because I really like those routes.
Yeah.
And it is sad to see them not treating the old DRC correctly. I bought the Class 111 about a month or two ago on Amazon because it was on sale, and it came with 3 pieces of withdrawn DLC with it. It came with the Class 02, which is fine. It's a good DLC. I don't know why it was withdrawn. It came with the 8F, which, yes, it's dated, but didn't have any glaring issues, so I'm still not sure why it was withdrawn. I bought the Jubilee class, don't know why it was withdrawn either. It came with the Granfield branch route, and I don't know why that was withdrawn either. And there are lots of other of these routes that they're mostly fictional routes, so it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
They're completely vanished from existence.
Going back on track with the podcast, basically we've covered Train Simulator now in a bigger or smaller way, and now we're going to go into the last section of the video, which is it's not train, it's general simulation related, and Bertie's going to take the lead here because this is basically where I'm going to finish off because I have no clue. So Bertie, take us away on general simulation.
Well, Simrail. First of all, Simrail is certainly a game. I mean, it's...
Wait, for those of you that don't know, Simrail is a new simulator developed by the company, which will be released later this year, and it's got tools for making routes and possibly trains, and its base trains are Polish, I think, and its graphics engine is Unity, just so that you get a bit of a general picture.
Yeah, so there's been quite a few screenshots coming out for it, and they look... is the best word to use. It looks quite washed out. I mean, people on the forums, on the Dovetail forums, so it looks really good and better than, well, as good as Trains of the World. I think that's rubbish. I think it looks worse than Train Simulator, because Train Simulator can look really good sometimes. But Simrail, the lighting is... it washes everything out. The models aren't that high quality, and it looks a bit like Transport Fever.
Yeah.
And that's fine in Transport Fever, because Transport Fever is Transport Fever, but in a simulator, probably not the thing you want. It looks a bit toyish.
Oh yes, one last thing. Train Simulator can look truly awful as well. Let's not get overexcited. For example, the DBBR 143 DTG model for Train Simulator, not Train Sim World, is, let's say, truly spectacularly disgusting. But let's carry on. Sorry.
Well, actually, that wasn't Dovetail. That was Eisenbahn Works, I think it was called.
Whoever made it was disgusting.
It is,
but Simrail, carry on. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted.
Yeah, I mean, Tracer, I've got screenshots where it looks absolutely brilliant. One of my favourites is the Lymington branch from Brockenhurst to Lymington.
Yeah, on screen now you can see Bertie's one of Bertie's best shots.
Yes, probably. I don't know whether you're going to edit it in. I'll try to remember to send you it. But yeah, it is a beautiful route, and the lighting is brilliant. The reflections on the water are even better than Trains of World, which is interesting. But either way, I think that Simrail, it needs to prove itself, because Train Simulator has dominated the genre for, well, since it came along. I mean, when Railworks came along, Microsoft Train Simulator was finished. But then again, I think that people, including us, are probably a bit too sceptical of Simrail, because when Rail Simulator first came along, it was negatively received, mostly by players of Microsoft Train Simulator who didn't like it because it was a change. I mean, even Matt Pedalston, who's been the executive producer for Trains Radio Trains World for years now, and who started UK Train Sim about 19,000 years ago. he was in a plot, let's say, to wipe out Rail Simulator. So I think that Simrail could be a very good game, or should I say simulator, but it needs to prove itself first. But that proving might not happen for another 5 years, perhaps, even more, maybe.
Yeah. Right, and then is there any other kind of simulator news? You were talking about Bus Simulator?
Yes, I was talking about Bus Simulator. Bus Simulator 2021? No, 2. I don't know what they've called it. There's been trailers of it. It looks interesting. You don't play Bus Simulator, I don't think.
I played it. Is it the one on PS4?
Yes.
I played it a bit, and it was all right.
Well, I play it and I really enjoy it. I particularly like the city. I think it looks very nice. But the new game has come with 2 cities. It's coming with an American one, which hopefully isn't hopeless, and a remastered version of the Bus Simulator 18, the PS4 version, the PS4 city, with the very ingenious name, original, of Seaside Valley. Or was it Sunny Valley? I don't care.
I've got no idea. I can't remember.
But hopefully the remaster is a remaster, not just something that they couldn't be just a texture upgrade. Because there's some bits that do look horrible, and the map expansion in particular has got a lot of collision problems, like bumps in the road that shouldn't be there. So hopefully those are tackled with. But in general, I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to buy it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Bus Simulator and simulation in general. And I think it's about time we end.
Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this new podcast. I don't know how often we're going to do it. That all depends on really how much news there are. There is. We're not going to do it if there's no news. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed. Please join the Discord server because we are incredibly active on Discord. Everything we do is always advertised in our Discord server. So there's a link to that below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It'd be really greatly appreciated. Also, yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. This has been me and Bertie in our podcast, which we still don't have a name for. Comment down in comments below. See if you've got any cool ideas for it. We'll take them into we'll think about it and then we'll put it in a poll in our Discord. So thanks for watching / listening. Anything to say?
Well, I think that we'll have to come up with a name quite quickly. We still need to edit this, which is going to be awful. I do apologise for that. And I'd just like to say, this is a podcast by us. You could say by the community, for the community, but that's not really true because we're not the community and we hate everybody. And yeah, I think I don't think there's much else to say. So
Thanks.
Yeah, goodbye.
Podcast by British Railwayslocos and Doomotron. Thanks for watching. Bye.